All right. Oh, waiting room. What is this? Daryl, help me. Jeez. Okay. Sorry. We don't usually have, let's see, we don't usually have a waiting room featured here. How's everybody doing, everybody? How's everyone doing? Let me just call my ops manager real quick because she's gonna have to help me out with this. Spotlight for everybody. I'm gonna pause.
Yeah, cool.
Hey, everybody. Now we're recording. Oh, maybe I should shut this door behind me. You guys, I'm so pumped for today. I'm so pumped for today. So I've been at, anybody else love daylight savings? Guys, I'm obsessed. I woke up at 4 today and I'm like extra. I take very little shit. I don't know if you guys have ever seen videos where I say like shut the fuck up 3 times in a row, but when I'm in like shut the fuck up 3 times in a row mode, it's usually because I woke up like crazy early. And so that is we've got like spicy me here today, but I love that. I love that side of myself. And also, I think that you guys can handle a lot more than you give yourself credit for. I'm going straight into the Enneagram today. I'm not going to be explaining too much. If you try to do this on your own and it feels like you're just repeating what I'm saying and it's not like actually going for you, then you might have to do the course. But I'm going to assume that you guys are fine. So I'm just going to pull up my Canva because we're working off of that today. And hopefully I remember my password because that would be very helpful. And here we go. Oh, sorry here, you guys. Give me 1 second. Oh my gosh, RT. I'm going to pause. A good starting point for this lecture. Raise your hand if you've ever had this experience of like, me right now trying to log into my Canva. And it's like, okay, well, we need you to go and hit yes on your other tablet. And then we need you to like use your passkey and then scan this QR code and then, do your face ID and then use, oh, sorry, you don't have that. Oh, and then finally you hit try another way enough times until it's like, oh, you want to just use your password? You're like, yeah, that would be super helpful for me. This is an example of new technology making things more difficult. And there's always going to be an adoption curve as we learn how to integrate things and find out what they can be used for and what they cannot be used for. I recently did some restaffing in my business and I was trying to figure out how some systems in my business that I had hired out for had gotten so confusing, like so many touch points, so many things. And then I learned like after the fact that like a lot of this strategy, the person that was working with me was like going to chat GPT to say like, how do I do this and how to do that? And we were ending up with these very large bridges connecting us from A to B that a lot of times didn't need to be there. And I had to spend a month going through and clearing these things out. Now, has anyone else had the experience of like calling to get customer service and they have like an AI answering machine service that's handling it? Have you ever gotten one of those and been like, yes, like I got AI, like, woo, like they're going to help me so fast? Or have you had the experience where it like doesn't know what you're saying or like your kid talks in the background and it sends you back to square one? These new systems don't make things easier in the beginning. And sometimes it has to get a little bit more difficult before it gets easier. The master of all systems does not have this problem. The master of all systems never breaks, it never fails. It's behind every success that has ever been created. The lack of it is behind every failure that has ever happened, not understanding what the laws are. You can't win a game that you don't know the rules to. You just can't. When you understand the rules, all you're trying to do, you're not trying to calculate God. You're not trying to bend God to your will. You don't have to do any of that. God is not like your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your daddy. Like it's an algorithm. And if you understand how it works, you can attune yourself to those laws, and then your life gets a lot easier and things work a lot better. But you're bending to it, it's not bending to you. You have to understand that. So the Enneagram depicts how three laws work together: the law of time, all things happen in time; the law of three, there's three components to every story; and the law of seven, which is that there are no straight lines in nature. I want to let you guys learn more about these, as well as the context that these teachings live within. It's taught in esoteric schools. This symbol is commonly attributed to the Sufis being the second level of Islam. So exoteric Islam, mesoteric Sufi, esoteric Allah. The three levels of spiritual teachings. If you want to know more about that, it's in the Enneagram workshop. So let's go over to Canva, and I'm going to show you guys how to use this specifically for writing a book. Hopefully I can get through this fast enough so that we'll have a little bit of extra time at the end. But yeah, I'm really excited to show you guys this. So to begin, let me see if I can make this big. This is my book, Yes Master. And I wrote this book in 3 months, 3.5 months. This is, let me see, is there a way I can make this bigger? That'll work for now. I wrote this book in 3.5 months. I'm super proud of it. It's about being seduced by a guru. The guru is Gurdjieff, and that's who this character Raj is based off of. And this story is about a level-headed journalist named Edith that goes to Paris on assignment to do an article called "I Joined an Up-and-Coming Cult for a Week. Here's What Happened." I wanted to write this book starting in 2022, but I'm very disciplined. I do not start things until something else is finished. And so let me just make sure that nobody can take them. Daryl, can you make sure no one can take themselves off of mute, please? This book I wanted to write for a long time, but I had to wait until Wheels Reinvented, my book about clearing childhood trauma. I had to wait until that book was not only completed, but published. I went self-publishing for that one. And I started work on this maybe 2 weeks after that book came out, and I was definitely ready to get to work, and it was just bam, bam, bam. And the reason why it was bam, bam, bam was because I used an Enneagram to plot the story in my head. So from 2022 to 2025, which is when I started this book, I had the story working in my head. I had not put it down on paper, but I was also talking about it whenever it would come up. The reason why I wrote this book is because this lineage of teachings, the fourth way, is very secret. It's very hard to get into. It's very expensive. It's got a lot of disciples, and disciples are so fucking far up their teacher's ass that they can't even say anything original for themselves. There is so much repetition, like you guys have heard in the Kundalini community, Yogi Bhajan says, but it's not the living word. It's the word of the teacher. Yes, he did say that, but what the fuck does it mean to you? It's got no meaning. It's got no pussy juice on it. It's a dried up teaching. And so I found basically, I paid $15,000 to get initiated into this. I paid $15,000 to get initiated into this teaching. Daryl, please keep an eye on the waiting room. And as soon as I got through it, I was like, oh my God, like this is way too expensive. I'm going to do it for cheaper. And so in 2019, I started teaching the fourth way. And I've been teaching it all the way up until now. And I've really focused in on using the Enneagram. And from the beginning, I was like, this needs hot guy school. Like it would be so much easier to understand this work if like the character was hot. And this is a term that I used a lot where I was like, if I want to learn DJ software, I'm going to get DJ boyfriend and I'm just going to have them teach. I'm going to give them a job. It'll be a lot easier for me to learn this with somebody that thinks I'm cute and is willing to break it down for me. And it'll also be easier if I think they're cute and I'm willing to listen to them. So I got a wonderful education in art from one of my boyfriends who owned a gallery. I got a wonderful education in film from another one of my boyfriends who was like Mr. Criterion Collection. And because at the time when I wanted to write this book, a lot of people, the accusations about Yogi Bhajan were coming out. And something you guys have to know about gurus is like when you're, sorry to speak coarsely, but I told you I woke up early this morning and that is what it is. But any gurus are like teachers 100% of the time. So everyone is their student in every interaction. They don't have any equals in that way unless they were with another teacher. So being like, don't fuck your students is kind of hard for them because everyone is their student. And that's just, it's power dynamics. But also, gurus always have men and women alike throwing themselves at them. They can really choose anybody that they want. Ugly gurus. Yogi Bhajan was a hot guru. So, and he was hot. Osho got plenty of action. Gurdjieff got plenty of action, but Osho's got crazy eyes, and Gurdjieff was really old. Yogi Bhajan, I'd fuck the shit out of Yogi Bhajan. He was so hot. So I really wanted to speak to this moment of like, yes, when you come crawling out of, the 7 months that you spent in Rishikesh and like a tantric polycule, when you crawl out of that and you're explaining it to your waspy mom, you go, oh my God, that wasn't normal, cringe. And you're explaining it at your high school reunion and they say, you did what with who? And it's cringe. But in that moment, when you were in it, when you were gravity bonging Kool-Aid, you were doing it because it seemed like a good idea at the time. No amount of somebody else pouring Kool-Aid changes the fact that you drank it. And when you're mad, you're not mad at the person that poured the Kool-Aid. You're mad at yourself for drinking it. So until you put it in the correct space, you're going to be really conflicted about it. So I wanted to write a story about this moment of like, what is it that makes you fall so hard for somebody's mind? And what's it like when somebody has something that you want? So this is what this book is about, and I'm really excited. So I knew that this was the basic story of it. Um, but when I decided I was actively going to write it, I started working on the outline. So this is going to be the first part of our lesson is how to use the Enneagram to write a book outline. Second part of this lecture is going to be how to use it to deepen characters. The third part is going to be how to use it to get through difficult scenes. I have plenty of these in my book. You will have plenty of it in your book. You can also use this first part, how to use it to draft a book outline, good for nonfiction as well as fiction. The final part, how to get through tough scenes, nonfiction and fiction alike. The middle one, how to deepen characters. You obviously don't, if you can use it for nonfiction, it'll be because you've done it, but that's going to be one that's especially pertinent to fiction. At the same time that I decided I wanted to write this book too, I read this book, Story Genius, that a friend of mine recommended to me. For some reason, everybody that I know that has like masters in writing or went to like college and stuff for writing haven't actually written books. Might just be the little niche that I'm in, but they do read a lot of books about writing books. And I think that it's a bit more practical to actually finish a book, even if it's shit, than to read 10 books about writing books. But this book, Story Genius, was pretty cool. And it was talking about the necessary components for a good story. And she said that the character always needs to go through a transformation. So people need, for a story to be good, this is the whole gist of that book, Story Genius. For a story to be good, the character needs to undergo a transformation. Now, what is a transformation? Because the Enneagram specializes in this. Change is progressing slowly along the line of time, horizontal change. So you say, okay, I want to change. I have a cavity. I'm going to go to the dentist. They're going to drill it. They're going to fill it. They're going to put a hat on it. It's going to last for 10 years. It's been changed. Growing a new tooth would be transforming. I'm not saying I know how to do that. I wouldn't have a fake tooth in my mouth if I did, but the technology is a stem cell technology will transform the dental industry because we are growing an entirely new tooth. Who here lost a shit ton of friends when they had their spiritual awakening? You are not the same person that you were. You're not the same person that you were. That person that used to be is dead. You know the title Swami that people get? When you get the title Swami, if you're on the path of the saint and you're on that Hindu lineage, you get the title of Swami means old you is dead. But here's just something you got to know. Passive principle, point 3 of the Enneagram, And if you guys do the Enneagram workshop, we spend a whole 90 minutes just talking about we spend 90 minutes on each point of the Enneagram. So you'll really like get it. But at point three, you got to be burned up. You got to be burned completely up. This is where the passive principle exists. At this point on the Enneagram, every single time that character has got to die. The same way that that in order for new you to be born, old you had to die. Is there a part of you that's still alive? Yeah. Burned up but not destroyed. But yeah, that's what it means to go passive. Truly understanding this principle is also the key to passive income as well. How do I burn up my energy but not destroy it? I could talk about business all day, and I usually do, but I'm going to try and stay focused on where we are. So I thought that was really interesting. And I was like, oh, cool. So I can just map the transformation on the Enneagram. So when it comes to a single character's transformation, this is the easiest configuration. Old self, new self, and the setting. The setting could also be called the self, you know, the person they start out as. So for a single character's transformation to occur, it would usually be configured in this way. They would start at zero point 0.9. This is who I am as I'm starting the book. At point three, they would realize that there were things about them that needed to change and needed to change forever. And then the new person that they are would be debuted over here. Now, let's give this a little bit of context. The easiest way to use an Enneagram to write a book is to devote one chapter to each part of the Enneagram. The reason why I like doing this, and I'm going to just tell you guys this with my eyes, the reason why I like doing this is because when it comes time to write the actual book, you're just filling orders. At point one, I have at chapter one, it needs to contain everything for point one. At chapter two, it needs to contain everything for point two. And it's really easy. For me, it's so easy. I always know where I am. I always know where I'm going. I know what has to be covered in this chapter. And I use the same structure because Enneagrams back all of our workshops at my school. And so you notice that there's a 10 workshop sequence for every single one of our, I'm sorry, a 10 module sequence for every single one of our workshops. Because this book ends on a cliffhanger, I can't tell you much more about that. Instead of taking people to the beginning of the next story, we drop them off at the cliffhanger. At our school, we always start the next level for you. So instead of taking you, if the finish line is at 9, I'm sorry, if the finish line is at 8, I'm going to bring you to 9 and get you started on the next marathon because Enneagrams keep going. So if I get you started on it, you will automatically start to take the next level of your journey. And I just think that that's a nice thing to do for people. So, and I'm not a particularly nice person, but I like treating other people the way I want to be treated because then I get treated that way for the most part. So the character transformation is going to be set up like that. Now, when it comes to the component, who here has heard the statement, there's 3 sides to every story? Well, the 3 sides to every story is the law. Like that is the law. So when we're building the Enneagram for a book outline, the first thing that we need to figure out is what are the 3 components of this story? Antagonist, protagonist, and setting. No matter what kind of story you're writing, you need to be able to divide it up into 3 components. Now, I have checked over 400 Enneagrams in the different ways that I've taught this workshop. I have checked a lot of Enneagrams starting all the way back in 2020. The part that people struggle with most, and I've taught this as a 10 module course for a long time, and every single module, regardless of what we're talking about, people need help with the 3, the 6, and the 9. If there's an issue with the Enneagram, it causes an issue in all of the math. And look, I'm not gonna warn you guys about anything. I'm just gonna tell you something that a mistake I managed not to make that I've seen a lot of other people make. The only reason I didn't make this mistake is because I know what it's like to show up and go to teach and realize I don't know my shit. I did this when I was teaching spiral dynamics. I was so fucking embarrassed. I was trying to pull something out of my ass and I had to say in front of the whole class, sorry guys, I don't know this well enough to teach this. So embarrassing. If you have the math wrong and you're trying to teach somebody, when you teach something, you master it. So you're not going to realize a year after you taught that course, oh my God, I fucked up. You're going to realize while you're teaching it, fuck, I got the math wrong. And it's not going to be a quick rearranging where you're like, oh, well, let me just move this over here and see what happens. It's the type of stuff where you're like, I'm going to have to chew on this for a while and be like, does that work? Does that work? Does that work? And it's super embarrassing to do publicly. So there's like no rush to teaching the Enneagram. When it comes to teaching the Enneagram in its original form, I've been teaching this for like 5 years. There's no rush. A lot of other people are going to be teaching it now. Learn it, master it, bring something unique to it, no problem. But wait. Don't get it tattooed on your hand just yet, because people do that too. And that's all right. It's like the most functional tattoo I've ever had, but like it's okay. It's not just okay to be at base camp of something huge, guys. You know what it's like to have read all of those books on manifesting. You know what it's like to be like, is this it? Is this it? I'm telling you right now, there's more. There's more and more and more, like so much more. This feeling of like it's the difference between intimacy and eroticism. So like Belle and Beauty and the Beast, when she's like, this is my favorite book. It's Jack and the Beanstalk. I've read it 100 times. And I love this book. That's you with the stuff that you know, like the back of your hand. But when she walks into the Beast library and she goes like this is more books than I'd ever be able to read in my life. That taste, that energy, that's a good feeling. That's a good feeling. It can be scary. Oh my God, how quickly can I read all these books? How quickly can I devour it? Blah, blah, blah. It feels good. I'm telling you, it feels good to be at the base camp of something huge. So let this feeling of curiosity and brain wrinkle, let it be delightful for you because you know what it's like to have it the other way. This is why Jesus says, except ye be converted. So to convert something means to take it. If I'm converting a wall plug, I'm attuning it to handle a different wattage. I'm switching it out so that it can handle more. If you're not converted from what you used to be, character transformation, except ye be converted and become as little children. What that means is when you're at the top of your game with manifesting and you know everything, and people say, oh my God, you're such good energy. You're so good at giving advice. And you're like, yeah, I'm a life coach. What can I say? Or, whatever. That's you being an adult. That's what Jesus calls being like rich in spirit. Except you be converted and become as a little child, going back to beginner's mode. And beginner's mode goes, this is more books than I'd ever be able to read in my life. I haven't read a single book in this library. That's what it means. Except you be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is a psychological awakening. It's not going to be with Daddy Jesus in the sky, but it's a psychological function that creates heaven on earth. But the only way that you can do that is to convert yourself from somebody that says, I know it all. Everybody comes to me. I'm the voice of reason in my community. Yeah, I get it. Feels good, right? But that's you being like, Jack and the Beanstalk, and you're missing out. You have traded wonder and awe and delight for pride. That costs what it costs. So, three, everybody make this triangle with their hands, please. Law of three, three sides to every single story. And so at the top, the 0.9 of every single Enneagram, we're always talking about the setting. And when you understand that there's three sides to every story, conflict disappears and harmony reigns supreme. There is no it takes two people to be victim and abuser. The setting is what brings them together. The setting says you guys are both right and you guys are both wrong. Let me give you a nice graphic example. I was molested by my older brother a lot in my childhood. That would certainly put me at point 3, the victim who got eaten up here. And who was doing it to me? My older brother for years and years and years. So fucked up. But what's the truth? What's the setting that brought us together? How were we brought together? We were raised in a sex cult where people were fucking each other literally all the time. And it was run by pedophiles. How would my brother know how to do that? Well, somebody had to teach him. So, who's really wrong in this situation? The truth is, nobody's wrong. In nature, when you go out into the forest, there's living trees and there's dead trees. And together, this makes a setting called the forest. Now, imagine walking through the forest, and every time you hit a dead leaf or a dead tree, you go, "Ooh, that's bad energy." And every time you walk by a living tree, you're like, "Ah, love and light." Like that's not the way that nature works. So in this setting of life, everything has a purpose. Everything has a purpose. So when we begin drafting our Enneagram, we always start with the 369. So how do you know what to put where? 0.9 is at the top. So it starts with 0 and it ends in 9. This is why they talk about like octaves. Octave starts and ends with do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. And there's actually in the story we explain where the solfege got. It's pretty cool. There's a chapter in this book called Vagina Cantata, and I'm so fucking excited for you guys to read it. So you always want to start 0.9. You always have to start this with the setting. So what is the setting? Chapter 1 is covering point 0, and it's always the setting. So in my book, these two characters, Raj and Edith, are brought together by her assignment to write a story about this master. So when you are drafting your book outline, know in your head there's got to be 3 components. So if I'm writing a story about, let's say I'm writing a story about matrilineal wounds, like the mother wound that gets passed down from mother to daughter to mother to daughter. Let's say that what is it, the protagonist, the main character? I don't really know these terms, so I'm just going to have to use Enneagram terms for it. Let's say that the 2 main characters in this book are the mom and the daughter. And you say, I'm going to write a book about mothers and daughters. Well, that's not going to work because we need context. We need context. So, where do the mother and the daughter experience their conflict? In what container do they experience this transformation? Here's another example that hopefully gives us more teeth for you guys. But if you didn't watch the masterclass that was free on Black, White, and Red Magic, where we also cover the 369, that is still free in your inbox. You can reach out to support at Mommy or Not. No, don't reach out to my team. Go to YouTube, look up Black, White, and Red Magic, Enneagram, Mommy Onami. It'll come up and you can watch it there. We do devote a good chunk of time to talking about how to find the 369. But let me give you guys another example. I think the most common duality that we see, if we were working with 2 forces, which is not the truth of existence, we would be working in the world of duality, which is your pre-awakening state. Pre-awakening says there's a battle of good and evil. I'm definitely on the good side. They're definitely on the evil side. And that's just not true. That's just not true. That would be like saying nighttime is unhealed daytime. I really hope you get the healing you deserve. We need nighttime. We need dead trees. But I think the most common game of duality that you ever see played is politics. And because I don't know what parties are called in other countries, because I'm an American, Democrats and Republicans. So Democrats and Republicans would be these 2 sides. But what's the third force that brings them together? Where are the Democrats and where are the Republicans duking it out? They're duking it out in America. And America is a nice little psychological experiment that is a very new country with a lot of new and interesting conflicts. But on a larger scale, where are they duking it out? They're duking it out on the planet Earth. And the planet Earth is all about conflict. It's the note me in the ray of creation, which is short for mixtus orbi, which means that everybody incarnates on Earth to be born into the illusion of duality, like how they say in Tantra, the one became two for the delight, for the joy of returning to one again. So the game of duality, the game of politics is just what it means to be on Earth. And because this is necessary for Earth, this creates tension for Earth. And tension, if there's no tension, you have a stagnant relationship. Tension makes things hot. Tension makes things tight. Tension makes things fun. It's a game. And so this container of what it means to be a human on Earth is where the game of politics is played. So it's not about who's right or who's wrong. There's no such thing as right or wrong. Everyone's got a turn, and this is just part of a larger game. To understand the law of three is to understand the larger game. And when you're seeing the big picture, there's no possibility for conflict. If there's no conflict, you don't have enemies. If you don't have enemies, everyone's rooting for you. So what would your life look like if everyone was rooting for you, if you didn't have to overcome everything? Can't fight if you're on the same side. What if all your opponents became your allies? This is useful shit. So in your book, you might say, okay, this is where I have to jump off because I can't think of what the third force would be. This is where you need to study. We don't have time to go into it now, but this is where you need to study. And the great news for you is the 369 lesson you can also get for free. If you want to get a deep dive, great. Next week, we're going to be talking about the Enneagram for course creation. And I'll tell you guys at the end how you can get that. But basically, we introduced a really cheap new tier that has a lot of live calls. So you'll like that. All right. So once we've established our 369, we have the bones of the story. Now, what's really easy, so we can say chapter 1 is going to be the setting. Great. Then it's going to go chapter 2. Chapter 2 is point 1. Chapter 3 is point 2. Because we can't do chapter 0. You could, but people might be kind of weirded out by it. I have to use like, human math for people. So chapter 2 is point 1. Chapter 3 is point 2. Everyone clear on that? So if chapter 1 is going to be the setting, when I get to chapter 4, which is point 3, this is where the character, the main character, is going to start to break down. At point 3, this is the only point on the Enneagram where something needs to be destroyed and not created. So a destruction needs to happen here, a sacred destruction. The law of three and like the Trimurti of Hinduism is the three-faced God. So Brahma, point 6, the initiator, Shiva, the destroyer, point 3, and Vishnu, the neutralizer, is point 9. Super cool. But at point 3, the character needs to be destroyed. Something needs to happen to break them down. So this is chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, chapter 7. At chapter 7, and I'm going to bring you guys back to this one. If we were just dealing with one character, the main character, at chapter 7, they debut their new self, their new advance. Oh my God, I'm changed. I'm a devotee. I'm a believer, whatever. That would be for the singular person. In chapter 7, they present their new self. At chapter 4, their old self is destroyed. And at chapter 1, that's the setting. When we're working with our 3 sides to every story, and we've got the main characters, we're going to see the setting shine at chapter 1. We're going to see the character that's undergoing the transformation shine at point 3. And by shine, I don't mean they have a good time. She's definitely not having a good time there. But over here, I guarantee you she is. At chapter 7, the character who does not change, who has been consistent all along, is going to shine here. Let's stop and take some questions on this. I'm going to go to the chat for questions, and I can do 2. I'm going to trust that whatever, but I want to make sure that we lock this piece in, because to cover the 369 and also the line of supervision is going to be hopefully not too tricky, but I want to make sure that you guys have a little lock-in here. Is the Enneagram course where you dive deep into each of the 9 available inside the membership? Yes. Let me scroll up here. I really don't understand the top of the class vibe. That means that you have reached the top of the exoteric. The exoteric means you live in a world where there's good energy and bad energy, and congratulations. Everybody says you're good energy. But this good energy, bad energy is just the new age variation of religion. You're going to heaven, you're going to hell. It's not the truth of existence. You're a living tree, they're a dead tree, and that's not true. So oneness is the truth of existence. And when you truly understand this, and that's going from level 1 to level 2, which is a process called initiation, which is done with the teacher. It's not done on ChatGPT. Man, I had a hard time studying. ChatGPT made me believe that it could teach me the Enneagram, and then I saw that it had gotten the math so wrong that I was like, fuck. I was like, this is going to really suck for somebody, but it's not going to be me. Is the hero's journey aligned with the Enneagram? The perfect question. The perfect question. So the hero's journey, the Enneagram is a more detailed hero's journey. So hero's journey is like, this is a journey and this is what it's going to be like. The Enneagram is like, this is a map. And all you need to really, like, if you're following a map, you don't think of, okay, I'm at the origin point and I have to get to the destination. The map has milestones on it. So the map says you're going to go straight up this road. You might be walking for a day and you're going, and we'll give women directions, not 200 meters. We'll give women create emotional attachments to things and they write story. So for example, if I asked a man how to get to the story, I'd say, okay, you're going to go east on this Route 39. You're going to go for 30 miles and then you're going to, turn 90 degrees or whatever. I've never driven a car, but a woman's going to be like, okay, you're going to drive on this road until you get to the big tree with the red house. You're going to feel like you've passed it, but you haven't passed. You're going to keep on going straight. You're going to see this store. Don't go that one, but do the next one. And it's a story-based direction. So if we were using the Enneagram as opposed to the hero's journey, I take you station by station. So you say, okay, you're going to start here, save your energy because it's going to get really tricky 2 stops from now. Now we go to the first stop. It looks like this. It feels like this. Do this here. And then we're going to go to the second stop. Feels like this, looks like this. All the way through from deciding you're going to do something to actually achieving it. To me, the most useful part of an exact map is when things get hard and you can budget accordingly for that. I don't mean financially budget. I mean, understand that when you get to this point, you're going to say, you should quit. This sucks. And you go through that. This only happens at specific points. We had a really interesting, when were we teaching this? I think it was 2 years ago. So we don't have this recording on file anymore, but it was a really cool one where we had told this woman that it was going to get hard. And she was like, yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like everything seems to be going really well for me here. I don't think that I've fallen off course or anything like that. We said, okay, cool. So what do you want? She was the case study. What do you want to do your Enneagram on? She'd been talking about building a business. She's like, oh, well, plot twist. I got offered this amazing job by this ex-boyfriend who I hadn't talked to in like 3 years. And then he just like popped up and she's like, I'm a clinical doctor. He offered me to be the face of this like ketamine and MDMA and fucking whatever else we can get our hands on clinic. It's going to be running in Topanga. It's going to be great. Basically, they're going to be selling all of these drugs out of this clinic and they need a doctor to make it look official. And they chose me. I said, homie, you might, and luckily, we were live classes. We had like 30 students. And I was like, I'm just going to put you on gallery view. And I'm just going to have the people say with their hands, like, does this sound like a good idea to you? Yes or no? Things get tricky. Stupid things seem like really, really, really good ideas. And it's true that you learn a lot more from making a bad move than you do from making a right move. When you make the right choice all the time, like you don't even realize what a big deal it was. But when you had that cringe, when I had that cringe of teaching integral theory, spiral dynamics, And I realized on camera that I had been gotten, that I had descended in consciousness, not ascended in consciousness, that I was with stupid me. Oh, dude, it was so embarrassing. It was so fucking embarrassing. And it began a 2 year process of having to clean my shit up publicly. I had tried to use an advanced teaching to say, look how right I am in pandemics. So, the Lou. And instead, I used an objective advanced teaching to point out to the entire world how fucking self-absorbed and deluded I was. And I'm really happy that I did it with that because I care about the Enneagram way more than I care about integral theory. So, yeah, the cringe that gets you working. So, knowing exactly when things get hard is really useful. Also, knowing when things reach completion is useful because so many people expect a trophy for starting something and not for finishing it, especially for manifesting generators and manifestors, people that love to start things but not finish things. And you have to learn how to finish things, or at least hire a great team and communicate well to get them to finish it for you. If you don't have a step-by-step list that's like, you'll be done when we get all the way to the end here, you're going to be stopping halfway through. When you stop halfway through or at any stop in a magical process, there's no going backwards in nature. So you just get stuck there. You just get stuck there, fucking spiraling until you do the work necessary to keep something going. Sucks, but this is happening to you all the time. You just don't know it. This is why Earth is not really that great of a place to be. Like, humans are basically livestock that transmit planetary influences down to the moon, actually. But it's not that great of a place to be because things just happen to you all the time, like Cinderella, and you have no idea why it's happening. And sometimes you succeed and you say, oh my God, I'm a God. And then most of the time you fail and you don't know why it's happening. You think it's everything but that. Like, think about people that got a celiac diagnosis, but for years were like, maybe I have this, maybe it's autoimmune, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. And then when they finally find out, oh yeah, it's just this one little thing, this one little compulsion that you veer towards, it's like fucking your whole life to death. Then you're like, oh my God, I can fix that. That's what it means to understand a law. There's 48 laws that govern you on a good day. You have mainly bad days, so 96. We'll talk about that in my workshops and in my book. But you have like mostly bad days. But if you're living under 96 laws most of the time, even 48, you're living under 48 laws where when you're living under 48 laws, you feel like you've had a really good night's sleep, like a really good night's sleep where you're like, fuck yeah, let's get it, Queens, let's go. That's, but even on a good day, living under 48 laws means you basically have to ask 48 people for permission to manifest something. So even understanding one law and being able to crawl out from under it is going to really improve your life, but it takes work. It takes hard work to do that. You can't like ayahuasca your way out of that. So I'm going to close down this chat because we answered enough question on that, but I'm going to hope that I have some time at the end. So let's just recap where we've been. So, but yeah, hero's journey versus Enneagram. Enneagram, very exact. I would compare the hero's journey to astrology. The hero's journey, astrology, the Enneagram, human design. Very specific, actionable, and based on the specific taste and issues that you meet at every point of the Enneagram, you can always tell where you are. You can always tell where you are. How far away are you from completion? And what do you need to bring in to help you because you're stuck at this place? And that's what I think is super useful about that. Human design changed my life too. Human design changed my life too, and my parenting and everything like that. Human design has changed me in a way that was very timely, where instead of being somebody that wants to help people identify what's wrong with them, I want them to relax. Like, I don't care what anybody does. I just want you to be proud of what you're doing. If you love to drink, I'm so happy for you. If you love to drug, I'm so happy for you. Like, I don't need anybody to be doing what I'm doing. I'm I don't want anyone to feel bad about themselves. Life is too short for that. So human design gives me such a big toolbox to be able to consistently say to people like, You don't need to change. This is inherent to who you are because there's nothing more torturous than like giving someone the assignment to change something they can't change. Like, the serenity prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Human design is like, these are the things you cannot change. The courage to change the things I can. Here, these are the things you can change. And the wisdom to know the difference. I feel like human design hits all three of those things in that prayer that's in so many 12-step meetings. I'm not a 12-step person, by the way, but whatever floats your boat. And we teach human design specifically for finding your authentic voice and bringing it to the marketplace and your social media. In our workshop, Fuckless, yeah, it's a game changer. But you guys know that difference. So like astrology, kind of vague. Don't sign contracts at this time. You might have a hard time making decisions. Human design, eat like this. You learn like this. One rule for your life, wait to respond. Take 7 years to digest that if you need to, but the law is the law. That's for you. Wait to respond. Love that. So, recapping where we have been so far, most important thing when you're using an Enneagram for a book outline, give yourself the gift of a 10-chapter book structure. If this book is a trilogy or has a follow-up or you want to end them at a cliffhanger, it can be 9 chapters. You don't have to take them all the way around. You can take them to the cliff. But if you want a happy ending, then you're going to take them all the way to it's going to be a 10-chapter sequence. Your first and most important bit is to accept that there's 3 sides to every story, and there needs to be 3 sides to yours. Let's go and share the screen, and let's see what we have here. So, and you know what, I'm going to need to duplicate this over here so I can help this work for you guys. So, and you know what, actually, I'm going to bring us up to this one because I think it'll be easier. Ta-da. So 3 sides to every story. Chapter 1 should always be the setting. Chapter 4 should always be where the character gets destroyed. Chapter 7 should always be where the new version of that character is revealed. Then once you have the 3, 6, 9, all of the rest of the points are like always the same. So point 1 is always intention. Point 2 is it's always intention. It's never not intention. Point 2 is always tools. Always, 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 always. Now look, there's some people that I'm not even going to mention, we're not even going to talk about because they're doing things the wrong way. But when I tell you always, 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 I fucking mean it. Come to me. And if there's somebody teaching it differently, be like, go take it up with Onami, and again, good luck getting a hold of me. So point 3 is always, always, always the passive. Always, no matter what. Point 9 is always neutral. Always, 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 no matter what. Also, ChatGPT, and I got in an argument with ChatGPT about this because I'm like, you're fucking shit up. ChatGPT likes to say that point 6 is passive. This is fuck around and find out, you guys, but you're going to be embarrassed on your mouth when you're telling people that they can start a fire without wood, because that's basically what's going on. You'll learn more about active, passive, and neutral in that black, white, and red masterclass. Point 4 is always, 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 always limitations. Always. Point 5 is always, always, always action. This is also called the point of most attention. And this one it's a hard chapter to write. It's a hard chapter to write. And I'll talk more. I can literally talk for hours about every point of the Enneagram, let alone what the lines mean and not just the corner points, let alone the laws and how this comes into being. But for the sake of this, I have to keep it brief for you, and hopefully it'll be something you can work with. Point 6 is always, always, always active. Point 7 is always, always, always presentation. This is always a fun chapter to write as well. This was a really fun part of my book. And then chapter 8 is always, always, always retention. Retention is, what's a way that I can figure this out? If we were doing like the Enneagram, let me write this first so I don't mess it up. Start saying one of the words that I'm speaking. If we were doing like the Enneagram of an orange tree, the process that it has to go through to produce oranges at 0.7, the highest that it can do, the highest that an orange tree, the highest level of production that an orange tree can do is flowers, not oranges. Because at 0.7, you need help. Someone else has to come. For example, if we were launching a product like I'm doing now and presenting you the product right here at 0.7, this is me showing you a flower. I cannot control if you're going to buy it or not. The orange tree cannot control if the bees are going to come or not. What it can do is make the best flower that it possibly can. And once it's been pollinated, have a system for turning that flower into fruit. I cannot control if you pay me or not, but if you do, I promise you, it'll be fruitful. So that's retention. Now, when we're drawing, this is how you go backwards and forwards in time. Wish I could spend more time here, but I can't. To go backwards and forward in time, you're not going to go around the circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like this. Now this, when it comes time to actually write the outline, which is what I did at the beginning of June when I spent 2 weeks writing my proposal and landing my agent, I had to actually put this down on paper. It took me a day to do it and then another day to refine it. And by a day, a work day for me is the nap time that my baby takes. So an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I had it going in my head, the outline. I could tell people this is what the book is about. But when it came to the chapter for chapter structure, and you do need an outline to write a book, you're just going to be writing yourself in circles. You need to get that clarity. It'll be easier for you to write a book. Don't you sit down in front of your Google Docs and start fucking shitting all over the page. Write that outline. It's useful for you. So when you're writing the outline, you're not going to say in chapter 1, I'm doing this, and chapter 2, I'm doing this. You need to be able to move forward and backwards in time the way that the creator does. So when you're moving on creative time, you go 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. This is the journey that the lines go. When we're drawing an Enneagram, which we're not doing right now, all you do is draw a line from 1 to 4, from 4 to 2, from 2 to 8, from 8 to 5, and from 5 to 7. If you're like, oh my God, Onami, like how am I ever going to remember this number? If you take the number 1 and you divide it by 7, and the reason why we would take the number 1 and divide it by 7 is because the law of octaves, the third law that is depicted in the Enneagram, is also called the law of 7. And it says that for creation to happen, we're all trying to get back to 1. What's 1? God. So you take the number 1 and you divide it into 7 because God split itself into an octave that we are all climbing, trying to get back to God. We're all just walking each other home. When you divide 1 into 7, you get 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. So if you have a hard time remembering, oh my God, how am I going to do this or draw an Enneagram? That's how you'll find it. So what you're going to do when you're writing your book, don't worry about, or when you're writing your book outline, you know that chapter 0 is the setting, you know that chapter 4 is the old self, and you know that chapter 6 is the new self. So then at chapter 1, all you have to cover at chapter 1 is the intention. So what's my character's intention here? The intention is different than the decision because, for example, my character decides that she's going off to Paris, but her intention is, I'm going to write a hit piece. And I have all the tools I need to write this hit piece. So it's different than the decision. Now, instead of saying, and then what am I going to put in chapter 2? You're going to use your creator mind that can go forward in time, and you're going to skip ahead to 4. So her intention is to write a hit piece. Now, what's her biggest limitation? Her biggest limitation, she's fallen for him. Fuck. Then we go from 4. So in chapter 1, I'm going to state the intention. Sorry, it would be chapter 2, but to not confuse us, I'm just going to say the numbers that are, I'm just going to say the numbers that are here. You guys can all keep up with me if I do that. I'm going to say, if it's point one, I'm going to say chapter one. Sorry, but you can figure it out. If you have a chapter 0, that math will math. If you have chapter 1, then point 1 will be chapter 2. So intention. Chapter 1 is just going to be the intention. Chapter 4 is going to be the character's limitations. Then we go from 4 to 2. Chapter 2 is tools. Tools, what tools does this person need to be able to complete their intention? And what tools do they need to go around the limitation? So interviews and research for my character. Then we go, this is where you're going to get your brain wrinkled, but it's what's going to make the story great. We go from 2 to 8. How am I going to retain this reader? How am I going to make the ending of this book something that they cannot put down? How am I going to, and this is different than like surprising and delighting them. This is, if there's a book 2, how does this end? How does this end? You guys, can I tell you guys a secret about this book? At the end, of this book, you go to a link that's at the end of the book, and you can vote if you want her to go back to New York or stay and be a part of the guru's harem. And I think it's going to be such a fantastic social experiment to see all of these readers, anonymous, of course, but like no matter what we say is right or wrong, what do you want? What do you want? Now I know where the second book is going. I hope that I truly want to displease my reader. I hope that somebody reviews this book and says, this is disgusting. I want them to be so like horrified and conflicted about how any level-headed person would throw themselves at the foot of someone and start calling them master. I want people to be horrified. And that is my retention strategy. Then we go from 8. So we know that chapter 8 is going to be retention. If we're giving them a happy ending, despite that last difficulty, they walk down the aisle together. And then the erotic died in their relationship 5 years in and they got divorced. uh, uh, after 8, we're going to go down to 5. So 5 is action. And this is one of the hardest parts of the Enneagram. Everybody that's been through my courses, you know this, we know this. It feels like the to-do list never ends. When you write this chapter, you're going to feel like it's way longer than the other ones. By law, this isn't a place where things are necessarily difficult, but you're the furthest away from God at point 5. You feel the most distanced from help, and you are. You're as far away from 0.9 as you can get, and it sucks. But at this chapter, action, this is where everything that they've thought about, everything that's existed in their head now they've been talking the talk over here, but starting at point 5, they've got to start walking the walk because their new self is going to be revealed in that next chapter. So at this point here, the future can really help you. You're like, I know I'm going to point 6 next. So whatever I'm putting in this chapter at action needs to make sure that in my next thing, they can show off their new self. They can say, Mom, it's me. I've changed my name to Guru Jagat. And then, who's my friend, and I miss her a lot. Okay, so after point 5, we go to point 7, and point 7 is presentation. Now, presentation is different than showing the new self to the world. Like this is where the new self meets the world. So for example, if this was a restaurant, my restaurant doors would be open here so that people can come in. At point 7, I'd be putting food down in front of the customer. So it's different. The kitchen doors are open at 6. But I'm showing you my food at point 7. You don't walk into the restaurant. You don't walk into a decent restaurant and the food is already made. You walk into a good restaurant, it's made to order. So there's the same way there's a difference between the decision and the intention, there's a difference between the revealing of the new self and the presentation. Cool. So we go 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. Now here's where it gets super easy. And the rest of this is just putting the math together. And we'll have plenty of time for Q&A, unless I get talking about something I shouldn't be talking about. And now my mind's going, what shouldn't you be talking about? And I guarantee you, but luckily I don't have anything like that. And that feels good. That's what it means to be authentic. I have no gag order. So intention, we've mapped out our book outline now. Intention, limitation, tools, retention, action, presentation. Bam. And then what you're going to do is just read through your outline and just make sure the maths. So if I start with the setting in chapter 0, I'm going to make it easy for myself. If I start with the setting in chapter 0, that works. In chapter 1, my character is going to be telling their intention. In chapter 2, they're going to be getting tools. Now, I've thought about writing like a chaos book where we write where, chapter 1 is point 1, but chapter 2 is actually point 4. I would not recommend it because that's only for you as the creator. And anybody that's used Enneagrams to help other people understand that people need Chronos time. They don't want to be bopping. That's for you. That's for the creator. The creator can bop forward and backwards in time. But if you want your team to stay with you, if you want your students to be well taught, you need to use regular time with them and for a book as well. Try it the other way. But this is, how I talked about like new technology makes things tougher sometimes. You might be making things tougher by trying to like innovate something or reinvent this wheel, so to speak. But there could be great success from it, but this is something very, very old. This is a very, very old system, and not old in the sense that it needs to be disrupted, because if it isn't broken, don't fix it. Symbols are the highest level of teaching. They are the highest level of teaching. When you're a new teacher, you use a lot of words. When you're an advanced teacher, you use less words. When you're a supreme teacher, when you've reached the symbolic state, no words. And when you die, the symbol lives on and people can just look at it and become enlightened. So fucking rad. So you're just going to make sure the math. So, okay, if my character is getting her tools at chapter 2, in the next chapter, she's going to go through her character transformation, her character breakdown. Cool. After she goes through her character breakdown, she's going to have new problems that have arisen after the fact that she changed and the old her is never coming back. And then she's going to need to put all of this into action. Whatever she was thinking about, now she's got to put skin in the game. All right, that makes sense, because in the next chapter, she's a new person. And I know from Story Genius, and I know from Heroes' Journeys, and I know from epic movies and books and even great songs, that this buildup is what makes a story truly great. And after that, she's going to present it to the world. And how's that going to go? Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. And then it's going to be the retention. And here I'm going to decide if I'm going to give people a happy ending or if I'm going to leave it on a cliffhanger. So now you've got that working outline, and now we're just going to duplicate it. When you're deepening characters, so let's take this was how to create a book outline. Does anyone need to take a screenshot of this? You know what? We'll send this out with the email. We'll send this out with the email for you guys so you can look at all of these slides and keep it. It'll be a decent copy. I promise I'll send this to Daryl right after this. Or you know what? I'll send this to Daryl right now. And you know what? Look. Oh, wait, no, I can't. No, I can let you guys view. Here you go. I'm going to drop this in the chat for you. You guys can all see right here. I have to stop share to do this. I'm going to drop this right here and you can all see. You can get that from Canva. We'll attach it in the email. And Daryl, I'm going to send this to you over here. You can just download all of these images and send it to my people as well. Okay. This is for my people. My party people. Okay, let's go over here. This is for my people, my ecstasy people. Come on. Okay, so so that was how to do a book outline. When it's time to deepen the characters, you can make three separate Enneagrams for each character. So Edith's character arc has three facets. Am I giving too much away? I guess so. Edith is going to become a true believer. I know where to put the 369 because I've done this. Raj, so Edith has an agenda, become a true believer. That's one aspect of this big Enneagram here, big story. Raj has an agenda, make Edith mine. All right, cool. The story itself has an agenda, reveal the truth about Raj. So when I'm deepening the characters, which is what I did in the second draft, carving deep into them, because this was kind of a difficult character. A guru cannot make the first move. You have to go fling yourself at their feet, but they're not going to make the first move on you. That's just not what they do. They can create and direct conditions. They can send their weird little Sheila and be like, send this person to my chambers, but you fucking decide if you go or not. And let's just think about this in practical terms. If a teacher is sneaking into your room to grope you at night, the next day you could tell everybody that teacher snuck into my room and groped me. It plays way better if they say, no, 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 she snuck into my room and groped me. So when I had a character like Raj who could not, who needed to be unchanging, he needed to be steady the whole entire time and couldn't make any moves on her. The only way, and luckily I worked with a really great Alexa Bitsko, the smut editor. I worked with a really great erotica editor to talk about, is this a plausible romance? Because in my spiritual world, it works, but is this romance plausible for people that only read erotica? And we discussed how we needed to, if I couldn't give Raj an erection, I had to give Edith a very deep vagina that sucks him in. And I'm not talking anatomically. We had to create a void in this character that was hungry for something that he could provide to the point that she would become the pursuer. So you would take each of your three characters, you'd break them down into an Enneagram and only do this with your three components. It would be really easy to do this for every single character, but I think that you would overwrite yourself. I have some background characters that will be coming back into the some in the final book and some in the middle book. And then I'll deepen them out this way. But you don't want to go if they're just kind of cameos or small characters in the book. I wouldn't I wouldn't even do this for them because I think it could get a little crazy. Something else I you might want to consider since we've talked about human design is to meditate at what's this character's birthday and make them a human design chart so that you can pick up on some unique flaws or quirks they have so they're less of a monolith as a character. I didn't do this in the sense of human design chart. I was going to, but it was very clear for me that like a certain character was a manifester. And I even say in the book, like, she's a manifester. So that, resting bitch face, repellent energy is on brand for her, and we use it here. And then you would do the same exact things here where you do the 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7, and you write what each of the individual agendas are. Now, what makes this really nice is that when it's time to write the book, you say, what do I put in chapter 1? In chapter 1, I need to go and check in with Raj. This is what Raj is doing here in his story. And this is what Edith is doing here in this story. And this is what the story is doing in this story. And then it's very easy because when I'm writing chapter 1, I just say, okay, I've got these 3 pillars and I'm going to work that in. Now, here's something. This to me was the fucking best part of all of it. If you're like, what else do I put in the story? I want to make sure that I don't leave open loops. I want to make sure that everything's tying together. You guys that have written books, especially fiction, where you're like, oh, do I have a dead character? Do I have did I not tune something up here. From the very beginning, you can know what degree of like foreshadowing and seed planting you need because chapter one, let me take you down here. Chapter one has two lines that come off of it. Chapter seven, the line that takes you to seven and the line that takes you to four. So in chapter one, I should hint at the limitations and I should hint at the presentation. The clue is always in what this point is connected to. So now you're really just filling orders because you're like, okay, so let me just review my character Enneagrams. Okay, Edith is going to be here at point one. I'll do a little tease about what happens to her at point seven. I'll do a little tease of what happens to her at point four. And then I just transfer this over to my other characters. And then you've got the whole thing written. You've got the whole thing written in here, and now you're just putting words on the page. I wrote 5,000 words a day because I was able to voice to text it. Here's exactly what I did. I would go on hikes with my daughter, voice to texting this book. She's 3 months old. I'm saying, play my vagina like a wine glass, like over her little baby head, earmuffs. But then I took and I just put that straight in Google Docs. And then to Chat GPT, same prompt every single time, correct typos and voice to text errors, no M dash, don't change one single word. No M dash, don't change one single word. It can only handle, I think, about 9 paragraphs at a time, but it gave me, and you have, that's only the first draft, but the punctuation was good. It was a surprisingly well-working first draft, but so I'm writing this while I'm walking around with my baby, but I know, and I can just look at my hand when I don't know, I know exactly what goes in each and every chapter. And when I feel stuck, I gave myself a timeline where I wasn't allowed to be stuck. I have to consult the map and just keep going forward. Put words on the page. It can be bad, but it cannot be blank. Spit it out, girl, spit it out. And I kept waiting for it to be hard. It wasn't hard. I'm so happy that I had such a tight deadline for that. Something else about that process is that it really was just very fun, but I always knew like where I was and where I was going. So let's just give you another example of this. If we're at point two and you're like, okay, tools. So I know my 3 characters each have these pillars that need to go into chapter 2, but I want it to be more than just a laundry list. So I'm going to hint at what it's going to look like at chapter 8, and I'm going to hint at what it's like at chapter 4. And this is nice, when you get to these triangle chapters of 3, 6, and 9, bam, 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 it's connecting to the main components of the story. So when you get to chapter like 3, where the character is breaking down, we need to revisit, why is she here in the first place? We need to revisit, who is this guy again? When we're at chapter 6, we need to revisit, why is she here? What's the story going to be? Who was she in the past? So that's how we do it. Now, just for the last one, when you're getting through to get through a tough scene, same thing. This is why they call it the master of all systems, is because you just learn this one system really good and then you apply it to everything else. Easy. Uh, Let me go back to share screen. So when you're writing a tough scene, and the toughest scene that I had to write for this book was a scene where she's doing 200 squats and there's a sexual component to it. Now, how do you write about 200 squats without it getting repetitive? Because it is quite exactly repetitive. So we're just doing this. Okay, so when it comes to using 200, figure out what the 369 is. I'm using 200 squats to blank, blank, blank. I can't tell you guys, it's going to give too much away. I'm going to make this a 10 paragraph structure. And if you want it tighter than that, you say, okay, I'm going to make it a 3 paragraph structure, but I need to make sure that I'm hitting these points in this event. The small event is 200 squats for blank, blank, blank. So paragraph 1, the intention, I'm going to do these 200 squats. What is the limitation going to be? What are the tools? the same 142857. And then so you're mapping it ahead. This is what I have to cover. And then to get through the tough scenes, I'm going to paragraph 1, I'm going to do the intention. I'm going to do 200 squats. Paragraph 2, try it with this tool. Paragraph 3, I want to give up. Paragraph 4, I stayed in it, but now I've got some problems. Paragraph 5, I can't tell you the rest of it, but you guys get the gist on that. And then you can always make it tighter and combine, and you can do this anywhere. You could combine intention and tools into one. You could combine setting and intention into one. But that is how you use an Enneagram to draft a book outline. We figure out, so let's do just our full recap. And then we have just a heads up. I don't want to go over 90 minutes because you guys are cooked. You guys are cooked. I don't want to we have a support call that you can come to. It's okay to let this digest. The support call, you have the link in your email. It's free. And we are doing this 3-call structure every single week, all the way through 2026. On Mondays, you come to me for a spiritual lecture. On Tuesdays, you can discuss your curriculum as well as which pricing option is right for you. You can do that with my husband. He's great. On Wednesdays, you can get support from me, first come, first serve. If you want me to check your homework, if you want me to check your sales funnel, if you want me to tell you what's blocking you, we can do that on the support call. The support call replays are audio only. We go very deep on a support call. You don't know if you're getting picked or not. If you need me to use an alias, please just change your Zoom name. If you do not know how to change your Zoom name or you work a lot from Zoom, just make me a paper and hold it up. If you want to, make sure that that you get called on, you guys want to know my hack for getting called on in every Q&A? I show up, I have my hand hovering over the react button, I have my camera on, and I just make sure I'm the first person to raise my hand. And I always get chosen first. And then I put my shirt on. My little trick. No, we were talking in Erotic Wealth about my voyeur kink and how it shows up when I'm on like other people's Zooms. If you guys ever end up with a mastermind or something that I'm in, I'm not in any right now, but I'll tell you when I'm in one. And if you decide it's for you, you'll be able to see me on Zoom. But I like find a way to make other people's calls about me without saying anything. And people always end up like following me from these masterminds too. It's sick. But let's recap what we covered so far. We learned how to use an Enneagram to create a book outline because the first thing we always do is accept that there's 3 sides to every story. There are 3 sides in our good story, and then we establish what that 3, that 6, and that 9 is. We know that this is the hardest part, but we also know that I gave you guys a free lecture on how to do the 3, the 6, and the 9, where we talk more about the context that this work lives within, which will help you to understand it and not just know it. You'll know when you understand it because you can do new things with it, and you're not just reciting what you've heard me say about it. The 369 is the hardest part. We expect to have brain wrinkles, but we know that we can come to the support call and get it checked, or maybe somebody else is going to have a question just like ours and they can get it checked as well. We know that if we need a deep dive on any of these points, that the Enneagram course is $500. If I want to add support to it, I can do that for an extra $40 a month and get that pre-recorded workshop with the live calls and master it that way. The 369, I just need to emphasize because I don't want you guys to think there's something wrong with you when you struggle with the 369. It just is the hardest part. I check people's homework the whole way through, and from the first lesson to the last, they're like, meh, and the 369 is hard. Let's recap what we've learned. But I don't want you guys to blame yourself. The 369 is hard. If it's hard, it means you're doing the right thing. It's just and nobody's gotten this on the first try. Definitely not me. Okay. So we know that once we have the 369, that all the other points around it are the same. We know that at the first chapter, we want to discuss the setting. We know at the second chapter, it's always going to be, sorry, I'm going to confuse us. I just have to say what they are. We know at point 0, it's always the setting. We know at point 1, it's always the intention. We know at point 2, it's always the tools. We know at point 3, it's always the passive. We know at point 4, it's always limitations. We know at point 5, it's always the action. I've made a dance here. We know at point 6 that it's always the active principle. We know at point 7, it's always the presentation. We know at point 8, it's always retention. And we know that if we want to give it a happy ending, then we'll give them the point 9 as well. We know that if we want to deepen the characters, we're going to make a 369 on each individual component of that big story 369 that we all had to start with. We know that when we do this and when we do the 142,857, that number we get when we divide 1 into 7, we know that we can just fill the recipe. Point 1 should have the point 1 of each of our characters. If it needs more grit, what other points does point 1 connect to? It points to our I said retention. It points to presentation and it points to limitation. Sorry, I fucked that up for you guys. Do the math. Do the math. ChatGPT will fuck with you. I will not fuck with you intentionally, but if we were looking at the math, let me just show you this so you guys see. At point 1, it's connecting to the presentation. At point 1, at chapter 1, I should allude to the presentation. I should allude to the limitations. In case I said that wrong, always check your math. Always check your math. If I say something that is not in alignment with that math, it's because I fucked up and I fuck up. And sometimes I don't know if I fucked up or not. So always check the math. If you're in a situation where the math is not mathing, do not power through. Make the math because if it doesn't work on the Enneagram, it's not going to work on paper. We know that when it's time for us to add, we're just filling orders. So if I need more grit in the story, beyond going through the point 1 checklist of each of my characters, I can just see, I'm not ready. You can just see what points point 1 connects to and allude to those. And that way you've got all of your foreshadowing baked in on the first draft, and you have all of the ends tied up on the first draft. We know that some chapters might be more difficult than others, but just fill out the recipe. And that is how, and also we learned that when it's time to get through a tough scene, what are the 3 components of the tough scene? Let's aim for 10 paragraphs. And if we want to edit that shorter, we can, but let's just make an Enneagram on the small event of the tough scene. And that's how we do it. How will I know if the math ain't mathin'? It's not going to make sense. It's not going to make sense. When the math doesn't math, and you'll learn this in the Enneagram workshop, but when the math doesn't math, you actually can't get past point 3. So I wrote a Substack called How to Use Occult Magic to Write a Book. And this is about the points in, it has nothing to do with the story. It's just in writing a book, where are you going to get fucked? Like, where are things going to break? Where are you going to quit the book? Like you've quit so many books before. You're going to quit the book because the math wasn't mathing in some way. You can find that on Substack. And I might change the name. I'm not going to be ready for a while. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm going back to work now. My love, we're in a major conflict here, it's feeling like. What do you need to ask me?
Ask you where my ghost pants are.
Honey, I'm in the middle of work and you want me to find out where your ghost pants are? And you can't wait any longer? Where do I think they are? I haven't thought about your ghost pants at all. This seems like a really strange thing to interrupt me for, but I'm gonna be really excited to cook later with your chef coat. I'll help you find this when I'm done in a little bit. Sorry. Makes a good point though. Kids. So, but you won't be able to get past point 3. I might change the name of this Substack to how to use an Enneagram to write a book, but this is specifically for like book writing construction. So work it out on paper, but that's how it is. Let me just tell you guys, you're trying so hard to understand 369. It takes time. But if you haven't read the book, 9 Lines, the free ebook, if you haven't done the black, white, and red masterclass, that it'll give a lot of context. But your goal to get the 369 on right on the first try. Yeah. Thank dude, I've been looking for a Gurdjieff tea for so long. And I was like, nobody probably made this, but I checked eBay every now and then. And then I checked eBay recently, and there was one, and it's vintage too. However, this came about, like, I'm so stoked about it. But the 369 is just hard. How to get the 369? I don't know. I don't know anybody that's gotten it right on the first try, but like, get it, Virgo. Get it. Any questions? Okay, so I want to tell you guys have next week I'm teaching course how to create an online course using the Enneagram. And then I might do a master class. Usually, so we're launching the Enneagram course right now, but it's completely pre-recorded. The live aspect, which is going to be how we release all of our courses in 2026. This came as a result of doing the Enneagram of sex magic to scale a business. I've never done this before. What I'm committing is I will be there 3 days a week. I'm sorry, 2 days a week, and my husband there one. But I'm pretty sure that as we're running the Enneagram, most of the questions in the support call are going to be Enneagram related. I don't control what you guys are asking. I can't know in advance. I'm going to respond to whatever is there. But I have a feeling it'll be Enneagram related because we've done things that are similar to this before. Until I get all of my Enneagram yayas out, the weekly call on Monday will probably have something to do with the Enneagram. But I'm always teaching the Enneagrams in all of my workshops, all of my systems, everything I do. We usually don't have our students study the Enneagram until the end because they'll have lived it. They live it with every workshop they do. Our school is spiritual business. So if you're a spiritual person that has an online business, this is really right for you. If you don't have an online business or you have a business that you love, you probably just need to do the spiritual teachings. But we go really hard on business because that is a requirement. If you want to get to advanced levels of spirituality, you can't be tripping out about money. Let's turn the thing that you obviously love, which is spirituality, into a career. Not that hard. Um, Not that hard, but it just takes discipline and consistency. And this is what we offer to you. But we are launching this new tier. You guys can go and see it right now live. If you go to mommyonami.com, that says study with me, and there's something that says Safe House Live. It's $40 a month. So for $10 a week, you get a live spiritual lecture with me. You get an onboarding call where my husband will help you find out if you need to switch up your pricing plan, what workshop would be right for what it is that you're struggling with right now. But if you're, or not struggling, but what it is that you need to build. If you're doing well financially, you probably don't need to build anything. If you're not doing well financially, you got to build a lot. And we help you go from zero to established. And that's what we do at our school. But the live tier is just live calls. You don't get any workshops. It's just a call like this. So if I referenced a lot of other things and you're like, oh, I'd like to know more about that, you won't get one sniff of a workshop on the live tier. For $200 a month, you get all of the workshops and all of the live calls. What points have the foreshadowing? All of them. Not just foreshadowing, but also referencing a seed planted. So whatever the opposite of foreshadowing is, planting something ahead, whatever it would be retrospectively, you're doing that as well, making sure that the loops are closed behind you. So that's what we have. Super helpful. Not my first try, but you're getting it. Yeah. Is there old content of 369? You have it. I'm really struggling. I've watched everything on the app 3 times over. You know where you might want to go? If you go to, so you're on the app. 369 is just hard. Have I checked your homework? I'm not checking all people's homework now, but if you go to, thanks for this question though. If you go to the app, I can show you this. Let me just, because I built an app and I used an Enneagram, and the symbol is a revised Enneagram. So if you go over here to the chat, and this is what comes with here's like the chat for the Enneagram here. This says homework check database. This is all the homework that I've checked in the last 2 years. So you can go and see so many people's homework that they've turned in and asked for help with. And you can see how I check their 369. It's all databased here. But just about everyone in this homework check has had issues with the 369. And I'm pretty sure, let me just check this again, but I'm pretty sure in the actual workshop, and you said you've read everything on there, but let me see. here, lesson one's decision. Okay, cool. We have, oh my God, look, we do have replay. We do have the old replays on here. I was going to take them off, but maybe I'll leave them on. Tell me, guys, would you want to hear? So I'm looking at my lesson one. I thought I said to delete the old replays, but now I'm kind of happy that we didn't. On this lesson one of the Enneagram on my app, we have a replay from 2022 where I'm explaining it the same way. We also have a 90-minute live call just of me grading the 369 if you want to watch it. And then there's also FAQ. And then, so there's a lot of places where you can see me checking more 369, but something that I'm not going to be able to do for everybody this year is check everybody's 369. I just can't do it. Uh, Novels that are longer than 10 chapters. Most novels are more than 10 chapters, so this feels limiting. Can a point be longer than only one chapter? Yeah, but I very much believe that good writing is less writing. I really believe that good writing is less writing. So what I would so you can't compare anybody else's book to your book. If you want to drag that story out over multiple chapters, go ahead, you totally can. But it might be confusing for you if you're like, okay, point, because in an Enneagram, every step is important. No, there's not one step that's more important than the other one. So if you have a chapter, let's say you have decision and intention in one chapter, and then tools is spanning two chapters, you're probably overwriting something and underwriting something else. You're only going to know when you do your book outline. Your book outline would involve like a 10 chapter structure, and you can decide if you want to spread it out more or less. But what I would be interested in is how much experience do you have with writing? And do you have enough? Uh, my husband and I developed our like family rules years ago, but our first rule was that other people's stories aren't our stories. It doesn't matter what other people are going through with their kids or their marriage. Just because it happened to them doesn't mean it happens to us. And I feel like this rule of other people's stories aren't your stories. Most novels are more than 10 chapters. I'm not sure about that, but what's yours going to be and how deep into it are you? Because this, I ran a self-publishing group for a while, and I've worked with like a lot of authors. The analysis paralysis is real, and never underestimate the amount of bullshit that will stand in between you and words on the page. Repeat after me, writers, words on the page. That's how books get done, not thinking about what other people do in words on the fucking page. Don't be somebody that talks about writing books. You're a writer, so write words on the page. That's how it gets done. What do you recommend for someone that works a lot that can't always catch live calls? Pre-recorded workshops. I can't stand. I don't show up to anyone's live calls ever. Like it's unless it's a live Q&A and I need an answer and I get in there, I raise my hand, I dump them out, I get my answer and I leave. I don't care what anybody else needs help with. That's not relevant to me. So, but pre-recorded is my way. I prefer it. Replays, all of that. And don't add the live tier. You're like, I'm just going to learn the Enneagram on my own time. Just get the Enneagram workshop a la carte. If you want Enneagram plus live experience, add it for 40 bucks. Go to mommyonami.com/Enneagram, check out, and you'll get an option to upgrade it with 40 bucks. You can choose yes or no. The no is very obvious. Reading the various chats is powerful. Yeah, I love that one. It's so much clearer in story writing than life. Why? Because you're not there yet. So keep going. The old ones, yeah, the best way to do it is just apply it to simpler scenarios until you get it, and then you can apply it to your story. I think that that works. Okay, so I support call is on Wednesday. I'll answer all of your questions. You have something all day tomorrow. Is that an issue for the onboarding call? I'm just going to repeat this order back to you. If you have something all day tomorrow and there's an onboarding call tomorrow, the onboarding call might be an issue for you. The onboarding call is going regardless, but if you're not able to make it, that you can figure that out. Uh, okay, my baby's crying. I'm going to do two more questions, and then my husband will see you tomorrow at 11. Mommy, why was I so out of body this whole live? Basically, girl, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, great. 30 chapter short story book. Great. Wonderful. Okay, it's time for me to go. Oh, let me do this last one. Mommy, I attended a similar call with you around 369 last year in October, November. It's taken me a full damn year to rub off the death energy to align back with this energy to move ahead. Thanks for this. I'm really loving how I came back to, yeah. And the truth of existence is that there's no good or bad energy. So when you awaken, and this is something we take people through at our school, when you awaken, you'll see the only person I was ever arguing was my own fucking mind. The only person that was ever standing in my way was me. The only person that ever put the hex on me was me. Like, what if you were healed? Like, what if you didn't, what if it was, what if it was fine? But the mind is really loud and the soul is really quiet. And you just have to learn how to not listen to the loudest thing in the room. It's hard, but that's what spiritual work is. It's wrestling, wrestling. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities. These weird little commitments that your mindset, book writing is going to be difficult. These little like discipline. There's no writer's block that discipline can't fix, but you make these little commitments in passing. I will not spend more than $5,000 a month on rent. And then, like me, you're dragging your family through houses that are just not up to par, saying, why does my life suck so much? And only after 2 years do you realize that you made some commitment. I can't ever spend more than $5,000 on rent. And I made this commitment when I was like 17 years old. And now I'm living and dragging my family through it. These little commitments you make are so strange. So I want to thank you all so much for being here. I'm really looking forward to answering your questions on the support call. We will be here same time next week talking about the Enneagram to create an online course. And I want to thank you all so much for being here. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you later.